So the problem with thoughts is not that they exist. The problem with thoughts is that you pay attention to them. You give them power over you that is appropriate in many contexts. You know, if you're reviewing a contract and there's a missing comma, like, you should think about that in your profession. Famous joke about let's eat grandma and let's eat grandma, you know? Like, commas are important. So the mind has a place and thoughts have a role. You know, your thoughts 1,000 years ago warned your ancestors that orange things don't belong in a forest. And so if you see an orange thing, you better run for a cave, because that's a tiger. Right? So the mind. Oh, okay. So we have to distinguish sort of stages. But at an early stage, and probably for most of you, because you don't. At an early stage, and probably for most of you, for a lot of the time, because your meditation practice is not strong enough. Thoughts will be there. Thoughts will be there. And so the necessity is for those thoughts to become less and less gripping. Or to say it a different way, for your direction of attention to be more and more under your control. At an initial stage of practice, what that looks like is you're meditating, the thought grips you, 5 minutes later you realize the thought gripped you. And in that moment, the most important thing for you to do is to drop the thought on the floor. It is actually important for the thought to grip you, because that's what allows you to practice the movement of dropping the thought on the floor. It's that muscle of dropping the thought on the floor that you're actually trying to build capacity in. And so the early part of progression looks like the thought grips you, you suddenly realize, oh my God, I was gripped by a thought, you drop it on the floor. Repeat, 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 repeat. At some point, you come to notice that a thought gripped you for 5 minutes 2 years ago, and now it grips you for 3 minutes, and then it grips you for 1 minute, and then the thought is arising and you're dropping it on the floor. And it's arising and you're dropping it on the floor. And it's arising and you're dropping it on the floor. And as this is happening, then you get to a point where, because you've done so many laps in the pool or so many push-ups, like, the breaststroke happens, it's happening. And you are free to work on your stance or work on your whatever the more elevated thing is that you're working on. Do you know what I mean? So the thought is arising and you're dropping it on the floor, and it's arising and you're dropping it on the floor, and there's like a portion of your mind that's doing this. But there's a majority of your mind that's doing tempo. And so the metric that you should be looking to at an initial stage of progression is not even related to how quickly you're noticing. Initially, it really is like hours on a push-up. simply put, hours on the cushion. Like initially, you just need to do enough push-ups. And there's all kinds of fancy meditation techniques. You really can't progress in any meaningful way until you develop concentration. And so that's where a lot of these other, disciplines start. So that's what so all the other, whatever, fancy, like this thing, that thing, whatever, which all exists in our lineage center, all of those rest on the foundation of you being able to hold a single point of focus. And so initially, the metric you should be looking at is simply hours per week, hours per week, right? Per week. And then slowly, you will notice it ripple into your healing work, you'll notice it ripple into your ritual work. I almost think that seeking for another metric, like how often do I get caught by a thought or whatever, will probably do you more harm than good in the sense that it imposes like a meta level of cognition over top of your meditation practice, which should be just about your focus in meditation. You know what I mean? Like that journey that I described is going to happen organically to the extent that you just put in enough hours on the cushion. And the thing is that consistency matters, just like in any other discipline. Like if I do yoga every day for 2 weeks, and then I take a 4-week break, and then I try to come back to it, like I've regressed all the way back. Do you know what I mean? Like if I try to, swim laps in the pool for an hour a week, and then I miss 5 weeks, like forget it. So consistency matters. So I think the right metric truly is just hours and consistency. So you're measuring a couple of things, right? You're measuring not just aggregate time, but if you plotted that time on a chart, there would be a very consistent, maybe not 1 week to the next, but sort of if you plotted 3 months worth of meditation practice, you would have a fairly consistent